Hey guys, this is Shanu at InnoKinetic. Welcome back to our program. Hey listen, we want to talk about wishbone bushes today. Why? Well, in the cars that we love, even the smallest components make a big difference. This is a factory wishbone bush in a Lotus Elise Exige. Amazingly, even a component this small and seemingly unimportant is in fact very important. And so today I want to talk to you about what options you have and why you should consider those options in your car. Our cars typically are pretty noisy cars, right? Lotus, as an example, does not spend too much effort in noise suppression. Okay, there's a term in the auto industry called NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness. In fact, I'd wager a bet that there's probably some OEMs that have more NVH engineers than Lotus have engineers in total. So probably Lexus or Toyota. But for those of us who enjoy driving, NVH is really not so much of a concern, right? But components like these, bushes and the different types of bushes, can in fact potentially have an impact on certain cars. They have a very big impact on NVH. Interestingly enough, on the Lotuses, they actually have almost no impact on the NVH. So that's a good thing. But why would you want to consider wishbone bushes on your fine handling sports car? Well, in the case of the Lotuses, there's generally two situations that you need to be aware of. One is you may need to look at your wishbone bushes because they're failing. Okay, probably every other week we have a car that's come in here with bushes that are walking. The other reason is performance. Maybe you are looking to push your car harder on the racetrack or in the autocross and you're running stickier tires. Having a upgraded bush can allow for less deflection. So let's talk in a bit more detail about both of those issues. We first started off with the issue of OEM stock bush failure. We are seeing, as I mentioned, almost every other week a car coming in here where the factory wishbone bush has slipped outside of the wishbone. Unfortunately, what can potentially happen is the wishbone itself will then make contact with the chassis. In fact, we just recently got a picture from a client, and it's the worst contact that we've seen. It was bad enough to grind basically a circle into the subframe. It, as you can see in this picture, pretty bad. So anyhow, you want to avoid that. If you're starting to see your wishbone bush starting to wander, we highly suggest you get and replace them. It's a fairly intense job, takes about 10 hours roughly, and it may not be for the faint of heart, but for those of you with intermediate mechanical skills, certainly a job if you enjoy wrenching on cars, one that you could easily tackle. So we talked about the second reason, and that was performance. Why would you want to run or consider a different type of bush? Well, the more performance-oriented bushes tend to be made with spherical bearings, as you can see here. These spherical bearings have really no deflection, unlike a rubber bush, which has, essentially rubber internal components, which will deflect. With the spherical bearing, you're not going to get that deflection, so that everything is far more immediate. We talked about NVH earlier, and interestingly enough, you'd think then that we should get some more noise from that, but amazingly on the Lotuses, we really don't. So let's talk in more detail about each of these specific bushes and talk to you about the pros and cons of each. So guys, we have right here an OEM bush that we pressed out of one of the Lotus Elises. This is pretty standard, solution. It's got like a plastic outer sleeve, a metal inner, and then a rubber, engineered solution that you can see a bit better here. These, as we mentioned, are failing on the cars. So inspect your car on a regular basis to see if yours is starting to walk or move. So the solutions that we offer basically are two different varieties. One which we call our OE bush, which is kind of a factory style of bush with a rubber, interior. We use a metal sleeve on the outside as opposed to the plastic. Ours, of course, have got a lip on it as well. So our OEL bushes are, in our opinion, a very good alternative to the factory solution. Our rubber is slightly stiffer. We use a rubber durometer that's a little bit stiffer than stock. So can we tell the difference? Honestly, I think our favorite ride and handling engineer, Dave T, may be able to tell the difference, but I think most of us mere mortals are not quite capable of noticing the difference between these two. But for those of you who are predominantly driving on the street, this is probably, the right solution for you. But, it's still very capable of going on a racetrack, and I wouldn't hesitate to use these if you just do occasional track days. These two solutions are spherical bearing solutions. This is our monoball, this one here, and these are the uniballs that we get from DNA. These are spherical bearings that have really no rubber components other than these O-rings that are basically there strictly as seals. So these, since they lack any sort of rubber in the interface, they have essentially no deflection. So you're not going to have any added changes in your geometry of your wishbone due to rubber deflection that you may find with a more conventional rubber type bush. These are performance types of bearings or bushes. So these are for cars that are more performance focused, that are driven very hard, whether it's aggressive street or dedicated for racing or track use. The difference between these two, they're both absolutely suitable for aggressive driving. They're both suitable for racing. This one, actually, the Uniball, features a larger bearing than what's in the monoball here. So that technically should deliver, frankly, more durability and longevity. Honestly, in the years of selling these two types of bushes or bearings, we've not seen these lasting any longer than these. In fact, both have been they last a very, very long time. So why would I consider one over the other? Well, if you simply want to have the most overbuilt bearing, this is your right solution. If you want one that's actually a little bit easier to install, the monoballs are actually. Because of the sleeve, you just press it in until it's flush and you're done. In the case of the Uniballs, you have to press this bearing into the wishbone and center it. A little bit harder to do than it is with this one. This one as well, if you have to change the bearing, it's much easier to change. In fact, we'll interject a little cross-sectional image of this, and you'll see the circlips that are inside that you would remove to then push out the bearing and replace with a new one. So anyhow, I would say both of these are a great enhancement for you. We produce these here in the States. We import these from Italy. Both a great solution, and I think this one's a bit more expensive than these, but both really dedicated for those of you who are more performance minded. Would I use these on the street? Yes. In fact, we have a lot of clients who run both of this variety or spherical bearings on the street without any issue. Most of us are not taking our cars off-road. Most of us are not driving our cars through the snow, slush, salt, or dirt, or types of harsh environments that can cause undue wear or accelerated wear on a race and a bearing. So the truth of the matter is, these things, even though you won't find OEMs installing these type of components on a car generally in a suspension, in the aftermarket, and in particular with these lightweight sports cars, this type of solution, we're not seeing any really accelerated wear. And I think it's, again, due to the fact that most of us are not driving our cars through very, very harsh environments. We may be driving the cars very aggressively on track, but as long as we're not plowing through the dirt or snow and slush and salt, I don't think we're gonna have any sort of issue. So anyhow, these are the biggest differences between the different types of bushes that we offer. Okay guys, in conclusion then, why do you want to consider different bushes? Well, as we talked about, maybe your factory bush has failed, and that's a perfect opportunity for you to enhance with a new performance solution, or frankly just go with another OEM style of bush. But either way, it's an important component in your car, in your especially fine handling car, that you want to consider. So I hope you learned something from today's video. Leave your comments below, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.